Welcome to the Quit Vaping Podcast, the podcast designed to make you a non-listener. In this show, I'm not going to scare you away from a life of vaping. What I am going to do is show you just how good your life can be without it. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. All right, guys, so welcome to episode 63, and I just want to say before we get going on today's podcast, I'm recording this at 10 p.m. on a Monday night. I'm really on a mission tonight to get this podcast out because I'm releasing it on Wednesday, and I just want to get it done before tomorrow. So it's 10 o'clock here. Usually my brain does this podcast at like 9 to 11 in the morning, so it might be kind of a strange one, but here we are. I'm feeling great. It's a beautiful fall night in Michigan. I got my windows open. It's nice, and I want to offer this. If you have not listened to last week's podcast with Hannah Watkins, the weight loss coach, go check it out, especially if you are somebody who is trying to lose weight while vaping or having overeating problems with vaping or anything about food. Like, go check it out. It's a really good episode. She's my friend. We've been friends for about 3 years, and she's just totally an expert and amazing at what she does with food. And it was a very interesting conversation about food and vaping that you'll find incredibly valuable. Now, with that said, today we are talking about how to get value from past failed quit attempts. That was kind of a tongue twister. And here's what I want to offer to you is that the information you're going to learn in this episode, you can truly just like take out the word vaping and put it with anything that you're not getting the result with. Any kind of failure you're experiencing in your life, you'll find these concepts helpful to you no matter what the problem is that you're not able to solve, okay? So I want to start off by saying this. A lot of people look down on failure, and truly it's because we've been programmed to look down on failure. So I, like so many other people in the world that have gone to a school system, pretty much everyone who's gone to public schools or even been homeschooled or whatever the system is, we've been taught that failure is a bad thing. And one of the biggest shifts I've made from like becoming someone who really isn't living the life that they want, using a lot of substances, in a job they didn't like, in relationships that weren't serving them, is I've changed my viewpoint on failure. And you'll hear a lot of like successful people talk about that. And I'm not claiming to be uberly successful, but I'm definitely starting to live the life that I want. So I've learned a lot about failure in the last couple of years. And what I want to offer to you is you've got to shift the way that you're thinking about failure from it being something that's bad and wrong to it being a completely normal, expected, and really important piece of your journey of getting any result that's worthwhile getting. So when it comes to vaping, I literally vaped for 7 years, okay? And I just want to tell you like my quick backstory. I grew up in a smoking household and I hated cigarettes. Like I hated them, you guys. I used to go to like the smoking sections at restaurants, which was literally like a 6-inch platform above everybody else. So not only were you in a cloud of smoke, but everyone else was also judging you. And like as a 7 to 10 to 12-year-old who's trying to develop themselves, in their sense of character and their identity, like it's not good to be judged, right? So I just always hated it. It put me in the spotlight. I'd go to school, I'd smell like smoke. My dad would smoke in the car with the windows down in winter. Like I hated everything about it. I hated the smell. I hated that my dad did it. I hated that he would cough. Like everything about cigarettes, I resented. Okay. And then lo and behold, I'm 16 years old and I hit a cigar for the first time. And then, a couple years later, I get on probation for smoking weed, and I'm like smoking weed every day. And then I'm like literally smoking cigarettes. And then I start working at this job where I'm like working literal construction outside manual labor. Can you guys imagine me, my dumb gay ass, working manual labor? Listen, I'm a hard worker though. I gotta tell you, I'm a very hard worker. I always have been, no matter if it's physical labor or not. And I kind of liked it because I could get my exercise in at work, so it felt more productive. But anyways, I look back one day when I was like 24, 25 years old, and I realized I had been a nicotine addict for almost a decade. And it came out of nowhere. So during that whole time, I mean, literally all 9 to 9.5 years that I was smoking some form of nicotine, I knew it wasn't good for me. And I wanted to quit. And I really believed that I wanted to quit. And I tried, and I thought there was something wrong with me. And I just couldn't figure it out. And I failed a lot. I failed a lot. I don't know if you guys have heard the story about me signing a blood pact with my twin, but I think we were 24 years old. And this was like, it must have been a couple years before COVID happened, but I had been vaping for like 3 years, like a chimney. I used to go to music festivals, and in one hand, I would have a literal portable charger, and in the other hand, I would have a vape. It was when I guess you can charge the disposables now, but there was a time where they didn't have the disposables they have now. The vape I used to have was called Soren Air, and you'd like bring your own pods. So I would literally go to music festivals with a cord in between the hands, and then a vape in one hand and a charger in the other, and then I would also have like 3 pre-refilled like little things in my pocket in case they ran out. And I remember literally holding that in a music festival one day and it was like red hot. So anyways, that's just my vaping story for you. But I failed quitting. I mean, it must have been 60 to 100 times. And I did sign a blood pact with my twin brother one year. I remember I pricked my finger. I pricked his finger. I'm like, we're quitting, damn it. And I just kept willpowering and forcing my way to quit. And if you guys have listened to this podcast for a while, you'll know that that isn't the right way to quit. Like, you don't just try to willpower yourself to quit a substance before understanding why you're doing the substance, right? The thoughts, the emotions, the mental, the emotional addictions, right? That's the real solution. That's the framework I have. And that's why it works for everyone permanently, right? It gets to the actual core of addiction. But I failed a lot. And when I was failing back then, before I became a coach and started like using all this fancy life coaching language about worthiness and, like future pacing and whatever I say now, it's coach speak. Like, I was just beating myself up so badly, and I didn't see failure as a good thing. Okay. I was always beating myself up. I thought there was something wrong with me. I was shaming myself, like, oh, I just lied to myself and I'm worthless and there's a problem in my brain, or I'm an addictive personality, or it's a vaping gene. Like, I literally thought I had a vaping gene because my dad had a quote unquote smoking gene, right? And it wasn't really until I stopped beating myself up and stopped seeing failure as a bad thing that I was really able to get something valuable out of my failed attempts. So that's what I want to say to you first and foremost today. Failure is a really good thing. I fail every freaking day in my business, you guys, and that's what makes me good at it. Like, that's the reason I'm good at business now, at least relatively good at it, is because I am putting myself into situations where I fail on purpose all the time, and I just don't make it mean something bad about myself anymore. I no longer see failure as like the little overweight, fat 13-year-old Andrew who got like a D on his math test, who's all ashamed of himself. By the way, I never got a D on a math test because I thought failure was bad, so I avoided it at all costs, right, by being a little brown noser. But it wasn't until I was able to switch the idea that failure is a bad thing and really see it as a learning lesson that I needed, an important milestone, that I was able to start learning. So here's what I want to offer to you before I get into like how to learn from your failed attempts is, if you're currently failing at quitting vaping and you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I promise you, you're just not applying the work properly. And I'm not saying that to shame you. I'm not saying that to beat you up. There's nothing wrong with you for not knowing how to apply this work. That is why I teach it. And I just want you to know that before I started teaching this work, I had to fail at it over and over and over and over again, okay? Like, literally for 7 years. And then I also got a bunch of certifications in coaching to understand like the cause of addiction. And I literally worked in a psych hospital and I taught about addiction, and I like got a 4-year psych degree. Like, I did all the things, and I also learned from my own failure, okay? So if you're failing a lot, it's going to cost you more time to keep failing. Okay. It's also going to cost you everything else that vaping costs, right? Time, energy, money, freedom, happiness, relationships. Like, vaping costs you a lot more than you think, not just because of the nicotine, because of the addiction, right? The addiction is really what creates all the negative in your life. Okay. So what I want to offer to you is, if you're failing and you haven't been able to figure it out and you're on episode 63 of this podcast, like, go check out my program, because that program is going to save you your most valuable resource, which is time, by showing you how to quit properly. Okay. Just want to say that. Now that that plug is done, I want to offer you this. If you're currently failing at quitting vaping, or you failed before in the past, which obviously you're here, that's happened for you multiple times. I don't know to what extent or how many, but you're here because you haven't been able to figure out how to quit without listening to some random guy online teaching you on a podcast. Okay. That's why you're here. You're failing, and that's okay. And what I want to offer to you is that if you're beating yourself up for failing, or you're seeing failure as a bad thing, you're actually going to stop yourself from being able to ask really good questions that would help you learn from the failure. Okay? Let me say that again. When you think that failing is a bad thing, you stop yourself from learning from failure, and that actually makes failure a bad thing. So failure itself isn't a bad thing, but if our perception on failure is bad, we're going to create negative results in our life because of our own thinking about failure. Does that make sense to you? It makes sense to me. So I want you to think about failure and see it as a beautiful opportunity to learn what's going on for you and where you may be having trouble. But if you're beating yourself up for failing, you're going to stop yourself from doing that, okay? So I always say this, you guys, you have to drop the shame. The biggest thing I can teach you when it comes to understanding and changing behavior, truly, other than managing your thoughts and understanding your thoughts are optional, is that you have to be able to drop the shame about whatever it is you want to do. Whether it's overeating, drop the shame. Stop thinking there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You just don't have the right information because you haven't failed enough. That's it. So like, the more that you fail, if you allow it to be a normal part of the process, the more you can learn, the closer you get, okay? So step 1 is you got to drop the shame if you want to get any value from your past failed attempts, so you can actually learn from them. All right. Now, step 2 is to just be really, really neutral about it. Okay. Sit down and ask yourself really simple questions. Why do I think that I haven't been able to quit vaping yet? And if you ask that question to yourself without beating yourself up, you're probably going to get some really good answers. Now, there's a couple things that are going to stop you from doing this work. It's very simple. It's uncomfortable, right? But there's a couple things that are going to stop you. One is that you're beating yourself up with shame. We've gone over that. Drop the shame, get curious, okay? Now, the second thing that's going to stop you from doing this and asking these simple but powerful questions is that you don't actually want to know the answer because there's a part of you that doesn't want to quit vaping, all right? So we have to get honest with ourselves. If you keep failing at quitting vaping, like literally you're a day into it or you're an hour into it, I've had clients that are literally an hour into it and then they cave and snap. And it's like, what's going on for you emotionally and in your mind that's making quitting so bad that you can't even make it an hour? Because like literally, you guys, the chemical withdrawal period, truly, it doesn't even really start until 4 hours, but you're really not going to notice the chemical withdrawal until about 8 hours. And you'll know this is true because every single time you go to bed at night, you wake up and like you have a craving in the morning, right? But you're not like, you know what I mean? Scratching your arm like, I don't want to say meth head, but you know what I mean, right? Like I'm trying to do, do you guys watch Dave Chappelle? Right? When there's a skit he does, and this probably wouldn't be allowed on TV these days, and that's unfortunate because his shit was funny as hell. But he's like, I smoke rocks, right? That's what I'm imagining with when people say the withdrawals are really strong from vaping. I'm literally imagining like Dave Chappelle with like white powder all over his mouth. And I smoke rocks. Don't do crack, children. Dave Chappelle's hilarious. If you guys have not seen the Chappelle Show, please do yourself the favor. Just go watch it. It's totally inappropriate, and it's the best kind of humor. All right, so now that we're off that tangent, withdrawal isn't that bad, okay? So if you're quitting and failing, even if you go a couple days or whatever your pattern is, like whatever leads you to fail the quit attempt, let yourself ask what happened. What is happening? Why do I think I'm failing? You know, at what point did my failing go bad, right? Was there a specific trigger that if I'm not beating myself up for being such a failure, I can look at with curiosity? Was there a specific emotion, right? Did somebody say something? Did something happen? Was there a specific circumstance or a person came around or you were just confronted by like a friend with a vape? Like what happened? Because if you do this work, you're going to be able to get to the thoughts and the emotions that are keeping you addicted. All right? So you have to see failure as a necessary, and I don't even want to call it an evil because that's already like there's programming right around that. It's a necessary evil. No, it's not evil. Failure is beautiful. It's just learning. Like, hey, just think of it like this. I want to get a result I've never gotten before. So I'm going to try something I haven't tried before. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to learn from it. And I'm kind of expecting it not to work because I've never done this before. Like, wouldn't it be kind of messed up if you tried to do something you haven't done before and it worked every single time? Like, everyone would be successful with everything. It doesn't even make sense. And what I want to offer to you also is like, the beautiful thing about failure is that like, it doesn't feel so good. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't make it bad that it's uncomfortable, but it's a beautiful thing because when we do things that don't feel good, we are able to really appreciate when they do work out. So I just like, you know, there's one of the main concepts I teach as a coach is the 50-50 rule. And what that is just saying that life is supposed to be 50% positive and 50% negative, right? Look at that pattern anywhere. There's good, there's bad, there's light, there's dark. Without the dark, we don't have the light. Without the bad, we don't have the good, vice versa. It's important. Okay, so one of the most meaningful things I've been able to do since I've shifted my mind on failure is purposely put myself into situations where I fail. And the reason why that's so awesome is because it doesn't feel very good. But what's so cool about that is that when I do get the result after doing a whole bunch of things that don't feel so good to get it, the result feels so much sweeter. So I want you to just see failure as a necessary part of the journey to make the result super worthwhile. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, like, the picture of the person who's like, there's always like comics and things like that. And if you read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, there's like a story where the guy quits like 3 feet before gold, right? So many people, because they have this bad perception of failure, they give up right before they get the nugget they need to succeed. And the way that you can get that nugget is by genuinely removing the shame and asking with curiosity what's going on and what can I learn from this failed attempt. And I just want to give you another example, okay? I'm running Facebook ads right now, and you don't have to know anything about Facebook ads. I'll explain it to you. The whole idea with Facebook ads really that makes people successful is that you're expected like 99% of them aren't going to work and get you the results you want. And when you go into it with that mindset, you don't make it a problem when you don't immediately get the result. You're like, oh, I was expecting myself not to get the result. Awesome. And then you can ask, why do I think that this 99% didn't get me the result? And when you can do that work, You can also do the work on why do I think that I did get the result when I got it. When you can start to learn from your failure, you can also start to learn from your success. Okay? It's a really important part of the journey. It's completely normal. And if you're shaming yourself, that's completely on you and it's optional. And I want to question, why is it easier to beat yourself up about not getting a result rather than asking yourself why you're not getting the result without beating yourself up? Because honestly, when you know that you're going to beat yourself up, you don't even try. And it's tragic to me because as a life coach, I really do this work to let you guys in on tools that are going to change your life. It isn't really just about quitting vaping, right? Yeah, that's cool. I want that result for you. But that was just the first result I got that really started my life. So what's so cool about this work and the way that I teach it specifically is that I teach you how not to beat yourself up before you get a result. And what's so amazing about that is that once you stop beating yourself up with shame and judgment, you're going to allow yourself to take bigger risks and bigger steps towards your dreams. The reason why people don't go after their dreams, I promise you, is because of the way that they're going to talk to themselves on the other end of not getting their dream met immediately. So many people aren't scared to live their dreams. They're scared of what they're going to make it mean about themselves when they don't get the result. So they stop at the first sign of failure. They beat themselves up. They remind themselves that they're not good enough and they weren't right for that dream. And then they never take a risk again because they don't want to confront their own shame and unworthiness that's completely optional because they are looking at failure in a way that's completely counterproductive, in a way that our society's taught us to look at failure. Okay? All successful people fail all the time. And that's what makes them successful. And if you look at somebody look at anyone who's successful that you look up to, the reason you look up to them is because they're willing to do things that you're not willing to do, because they're willing to fail over and over again and put themselves in discomfort and not make it mean something bad about them. That's why you want to be like that person, because they're able to not treat themselves like crap and to keep doing the uncomfortable things. And although failure is uncomfortable, it's not bad and it's completely necessary and it's beautiful. So I want you to just recognize that the way that you're going to get value from any kind of failure in your life, especially with quitting vaping, is by stopping to beat yourself up and then asking yourself, what can I learn from this completely normal and expected part of the successful hero's journey? Nobody succeeds on the first try. And if you do, it really wasn't that big of a goal and you weren't stretching yourself that much because you succeeded on the first try. So that's failure. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you can step into failure and not make it mean something bad about you. And if you keep failing and you can't figure it out, please check out my course. It's literally called Escape the Vape now, and it's just so ridiculously good. I'm so proud of this program, and I'm so happy with it that I put a money back guarantee for 30 days, no questions asked. You guys literally have no reason to not sign up for this course and this program and get all the tools and all the resources and all the support you need, and I want you in there. I want everyone to learn these tools, and it's not just because I want you to quit vaping. It's because I want to teach you these tools that will far extend just quitting vaping. These tools aren't just about quitting vaping. They're about showing you how you can courageously step into the life that you want and show you that you really can live your dreams if you learn how to manage your thoughts and your emotions. And yes, that will lead to you not having any control issues over vaping ever again, of course. But that's just, in my opinion, the sprinkles on the cake that I'm delivering with these life coaching tools. So check it out. If you've been listening to this podcast for a long time too, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? There's a scene in Scary Movie 3 where this guy's going to jump off the building. He's like, I don't want to be alive anymore. And it's so stupid. But anyways, I heard they're making another Scary Movie. If you guys have not seen the Scary Movie series, those are absolutely my favorite movie. And I want you to watch them so you get my humor. Go check them out. They're freaking so stupid, but the best movies ever. They're so funny that my vernacular is 80% Scary Movie, and I cannot wait for the new one to come out. So thank you guys for coming here. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If you fail, it's supposed to happen, and if you're beating yourself up, that's optional. And if you can't stop beating yourself up or can't stop failing, either get one-on-one coaching with me or just sign up for the Escape the Vape program, and both of those things will help you. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. I'd love to see you in the program and in the 30-day follow-up call where I'm going to give you a bunch of support and stuff. But that call is limited, by the way. And you do get a 30-day follow-up call right now. I'm doing that with the program. When I start getting a lot more people in it, I'm not going to have the time to do that. So if that's what you want, you'll have all the support you need, everything you need. 30-day money-back guarantee. There's no reason not to check it out, at least. The sales page is in my bio. Have a wonderful day, guys. Thanks for being here. Bye. If you are finally ready to put this vaping struggle behind you, I'd like to invite you to join the Escape the Vape program. This podcast is such a helpful resource, but if you find yourself listening week after week but not really implementing what you're learning here, the Escape the Vape program will help you take these life-changing tools and apply them to your specific vaping goals so you can finally take control back and keep it for a lifetime. It's not just another quick fix that'll last a couple months. It's a transformation that will change your relationship with nicotine for the rest of your life from the inside out. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes, sign up, and follow the freedom game plan you'll find inside that will walk you through step by step from vaping to freedom on your own time. I'm so confident this will work for you that I even offer a 30-day money-back guarantee for any reason. I really hope to see you inside the program so you can apply the 3 addiction framework and put your vape struggle behind you for good. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.